Alright, hello and welcome to some StarCraft 2 casting. I've not done too much of this recently because, well, I was at Valencia, which is where these games are from. And they're going to be hopefully good ones. But I've also been a bit ill since I got back. Currently have the COVID, so if I do end up muting during the cast, or if I go quiet randomly, especially at an awkward time, then I apologize in advance. Unfortunately, that's just kind of the situation we're in, and I'm kind of in a place where I kind of have to cast some games, because otherwise I A, don't have YouTube content, and B, my stream has been offline for way too long. So here we are. This is the resolution that we have, which is we're just going to cast these games. Even if I am a bit ill, and even if it's maybe not going to be the best cast out there, for now I feel actually pretty okay, but let's see how it goes. The games get going and stuff, right? First of all, still, again, thank you so much for the 21-month resub on the Prime. And just as I was saying, this is from DreamHack Valencia. It's from Group Stage 3, which is basically round of 32. This is Scarlett in the top right-hand side of DreamHack, which is one of the new maps. In fact, all of this tournament was played on non-ladder maps, which are going to be the new ladder map pool whenever Blizzard pushes the update ladder map button. Hopefully, that will be sooner rather than later. These maps have been set and ready to go for a while. We've just been waiting for Blizzard, and ESL eventually pulled the trigger and said, we'll use them in DreamHack. Which at least was nice to see some... And a tournament on new maps was great to see. In the bottom left, our Blue Terran player, Maru. Tell you what, Maru Scarlett is always a fun one, if nothing else, for the fact that people want to see Maru and they want to see Scarlett. And Scarlett actually usually makes this a pretty fun series. I know a lot of the time you might think, oh, well, if Scarlett's not playing great, then I can see Maru rolling her. And I would usually be on that train of thinking too, but I actually feel like Maru Scarlett usually delivers a lot more often than it doesn't. Which is why I kind of figured this is a fun one to cast. Bit of clickbait in the title, Maru versus Scarlett, hype, hype, hype. I think one of my best videos ever on YouTube is actually a Maru vs. Scarlett video. Oh, I actually don't know now. I'm kind of tempted to kind of look it up as we go. But of course, that was because all you wonderful people that watched it, if you're watching this on YouTube, click the like button and were like, wow, Wardy, this is a great video. And then everyone else watched it too. So, yeah, do go do that if you are watching on the YouTubes. This game just getting up to a fairly standard start. No Reaper from Maru is maybe the one most important thing to note right now. It is just a reactor straight away into a couple Marines. This is a massive map, and I am going to talk a little bit about what Maru did in TvZ throughout this event. Again, this is a group stage, so whoever wins here isn't kind of like through to the next round guaranteed or knocked out. This is just one of the matches in the group, so I believe this was even the first match in the group, so very much so a case of anything can happen whether you win or lose from here. So we did end up watching a lot more Maru in the tournament. I was obviously at the event casting. And a lot of his TvZ was just playing it late, playing it slow, and just seeing if he could draw the game out to that very kind of elongated sort of stage. Especially, it's one of those funny things where it's like, well, if you just can't kill the guy, right? Like, if you just can't kill the guy, I guess, then you just can't kill the guy, right? Like, you know, he's just going to sit there and just do what he wants. And that's what's so frustrating, because even if he's behind, he will just sit there and not die. And if he's just sitting there not dying, then, well, he's probably going to have a pretty good time, to be kind of honest with you guys. So yeah. Yeah, I was just looking through just out of interest, and actually Maru vs. Scarlett from IEM Katowice 2020 qualifiers was my second most watched YouTube video of all time. Apparently, Sterile Innovation from a Stay-at-Home Story Cup final was my most watched. Yeah, Maru Scarlett up number 2. I feel like there was another one that was Maru Scarlett that was from a year or two before that. That did very well also, but I can't see that anymore, so yeah. Scarlet Maru, it always does well, so not that that really has any impact on this match right now in particular, just part of the reason why I chose to watch it. Medevac Spartans, and we are going to be seeing an armory on the way up at the moment, so Maru is going to be moving straight on into a Hellbat-focused attack, so trying to get some damage done early in this game. Hellbats, and actually more Hellions in production too, so really going to go into those Hellbats, but he also has the few Widow Mines, so you'll have those cloaked up, so you'll have that little combination of attacks. So, yeah, a few Hellbats, a few Widow Mines cloaked, and at the moment it does just seem like the Widow Mine drop's going to lead in initially, and maybe not much else with. These Marines have moved home. And yeah, a little bit of a funky opener. As, I guess one of the things I was trying to lead into before, then I kind of got distracted on and didn't continue to lead into, was actually kind of the fact that, well, yeah, this is a large map as well. This is a very macro-focused map, and for Maru, this is the sort of map where he will just sit back and defend for a long-ass time if that's what he feels needs to be done. So this map does play to Maru's strengths in that regard, although it might not matter if Scott loses 11 drones to the next 2 Widow Mines that land, and that is just painful. And that's 11 workers, which I mean, yeah, not really meant to be losing that amount that early in the game. This one, Widowmine, he is still alive too. Hopefully that doesn't get more damage done because Scarlett's already on the verge of taking too much damage, if not, you know, there already. Any further damage from here on out is just going to punish her that much further, so not great for Scarlett to start, but she does at least get the Widowmines cleaned up now. And now we're going to actually have a Hellbat attack, so these Hellions do come across, and they are going to start poking on forward, so in they go. Making a bit of a move here, and, well, let's see what happens. Going to get rid of a few Marines, a couple of the Hellbats coming in as well, and just going to have our Queens pressing through to try and get that medevac. Doesn't quite get it just yet. Medevac just about manages to escape away. There's a Liberator at the same time over in the main base. As you're just going to be seeing it, picked up 4 kills in total. I believe a lot of those were just lava, though. There's only been 12 drones in total killed, so it couldn't have been many more drones. 11 died to the Widowmines, remember. Again, good micro with the Liberator, making sure it's being pulled back, being kept safe. All of this just acting as a distraction, because back at home, Maru is doing a great job of just continuing into his 1-1 upgrades. That third CC has been online now, and the extra barracks are coming through, so he's really set to kind of drive through into the mid-game. And this has caused a lot of disruption for Scarlett. Queens have been pulled back, and Scarlett's a player whose creep will be magnificent. And while this creep in the front is impressive, I would imagine the creep would be much further, at least through the top side of the map maybe as well, if she hadn't been pulled back and distracted by these mines and, you know, that damage had been dealt to her. So in that regard, I like it from Maru. But because you do build 4 mines in the armory, that is not exactly the most kind of like creep clearing kind of unit, so like caused good damage and it was a good distraction. He hasn't had a lot of stuff on the map to clean creep out. And one of the next things I think he'd like to do here is probably with a couple of medevacs or this squad of units, just start getting rid of some of these creep teamers. It's a big enough map already. The last thing you want is this map being made bigger, in essence, because of the creep, because the creep just is like a safety zone for the Zerg. If there's creep there, the Zerg feels so much safer, there's so much more space they can work with, there's so much more information they can gather. Removing that creep is essential. And this map, it's almost, I'm going to say, impossible to get rid of the creep on all directions. So prioritize removing it in the most important directions of attack, which for you is generally from your 3rd to the 4th base, or from your 4th to their 4th. And that's kind of what Maru is doing, right? The upper side of the middle of the map. This top side is obviously the 4th base of Scarlett here. Those are the pushing directions you want to, you know, move into. Getting tanks and so on set up behind these ledges, pushing into these choke points. Those are the things that Maru wants to take advantage of on DayToC. And that's why he's focusing the creep spread clearing on this top side rather than saying, oh, I got the top part of the middle, let's move down to the bottom part of the middle. This area, yeah, might help Scarlett with like her own counterattacks and stuff, but I don't think it has any real impact on Scarlett trying to play a longer game for the moment. Lings wanting to try and get a wraparound in Marines and Hellbats. And they just get forced to lift back up. Muta's going to come forward here, aiming for the medevac, and actually the medevac does get out of there. Boost was available. Muta's a nice little switch, and I wonder how Maru will deal with this, because he's not really set to play against Mutas right now. It's not like he's been playing mines, he's been playing tanks. He's going to continue building tanks for the moment. He might just fully send this. It's not 8 racks or anything. This is a 4th CC. There is going to be a second factory before we go to 8 barracks. It's not like he's all in, continuing to push, but he is pretty committed, just keeping on building tanks. So maybe he just feels like he's got a bit of momentum right now. He does have the upgrade lead for a couple more seconds. He's going to start this fight at least with an upgrade lead, clear out a few of these morphing Banes, and get a few of them as they finish morphing and try and roll away from him. And this is exactly it, right? Because he's cleaned out that creep, he's able to march pretty much onto like the base while only having been on creep for a few seconds. That's kind of what you're looking for, is right now you can see these Banes just don't really get a chance. And they have to kind of sit near the tank, because when they die they'll at least splash the tank. Muta's going down. Skull actually might just be in a bit too much trouble here for game number 1. Maru gets rid of the 4th base, and that's a massive W. From here, Maru probably can just focus on turning back home and regrouping, getting more units and going again. He has been rallying through the center, which is a bit dangerous, especially because A, you're running through creeps, Scarlett will see these units running across, so these are all things that Scarlett maybe could have noticed, taken advantage of, etc., but hasn't quite been able to. Cleaning out a couple more creep demons, and just going to be seeing on the bottom side Maru ready in his own 4th base, so denying the Zerg 4th, taking his own. He's been very active with his tanks as well. He's always bringing the tanks forward. He's never leaving them at home, letting them kind of gather in numbers. I think that's because he doesn't feel like he needs one big mega push to end this game. He'd rather just keep the momentum up, and that means just one tank here sieging, taking out a clump of Banes to help his Marines trade there. It's not the kind of push that's going to kind of set up a position at end of the game that Scarlett can never fight into. It is the kind of attack that just keeps Scarlett busy and potentially allows Maru to just play this out over time. Turn for those Mutas was maybe a mistake. Obviously, distraction due to these Lings running by on this other side, it's going to be having the Marines here to clean those out. As the Ling being muted, well, just going to be sitting on the creep, but pulling back to the further right side, go to this base, which kind of became the fourth once this top side 12 o'clock base was denied. Marines and Medivacs waiting to see what their next target's going to be. Now 2-2 against 1 ward and for a significant amount of time. By the time 2-2's finished from Scarlett, well, 3-3 will be a minute or so away from Maru because they started at the same time, those 2-2 versus 3-3 upgrades, which is obviously pretty crazy as well. That one creep teamer does get allowed to finish. Where was that creep teamer spreading from, by the way? I guess that was a fresh creep teamer because there's no way there's any creep here that attaches to that tumor. I was like convinced it was about to cancel when one of the other tumors died, and it didn't. I was like, what? Oh, that's crazy, but obviously if a queen just put it there, then it's not attached to anything, so it's not based off another creep tumor, so it can't be cancelled by another one going down. That does make a lot of sense. That does provide a pretty reasonable explanation. And as we say knock knock and bye-bye to these rocks, it does open maybe more attack paths for Scarlett, maybe a bit more maneuverability for Maru. Looking at it, I mean, it kind of lets me come down this ramp and around here more easily, but I feel like that benefits Scarlett more than it does Maru, but maybe he's just done with being kind of walked around silly. He's just had enough of that for now. I'll have to take a different approach. Mine shot connects nicely onto a group of Mutilas, so taking those out, just going to be seeing our Marines continue to chase up to the top side of the map. But they actually are going to go stemming in toward a hatchery over here. This queen goes down. The Muta is being transfused. Playing Bane continues to rush on over, and, well, I'm just going to see our bio obviously stemming up a storm, and these Mutas aren't going to be able to do much as they kind of just stand there and take damage. Let's see if Scarlett can take this fight at all. And there's only a couple of tanks. There's a Thor mixed in to kind of do some tanking of its own. And it's just going to be seeing the bio pulling back. Is being surrounded by the flank on the low ground. Oh, you know, that's such a cool lift because this isn't just a lift everything and get out of there moment. Let's just do a quick little rewind because we have the privilege of being able to do that in a replay cast. You know, this lift is so cool, so let's just get to the point where it happens. Because it's one of those just little things where it's like, oh, actually, this should be kind of bad, right? You know, even if you've got a lot of stuff, which let's face it, Maru does. 2-2 against 1-1, double army spot. He's going to win this fight no matter what, do not get me wrong. This isn't like, oh, this saved him the game, but in a different fight, maybe it would have done, because he's very clearly winning the fight over here. These units don't have to worry, you know, and at the end of the day, if you lift up with everything and try and get out of here, you're probably still going to lose quite a bit. But these units are obviously in trouble, because you got Banes coming in from the bottom, Banes coming in from the top side, and Maru's like, huh, well, what can I do? These units in particular are the ones that are really stuck. These ones are fine. I feel like a lot of people would just be like, oh my god, I'm getting surrounded. You know, lift up the medivacs, get out of there. You know, cut your losses, lose the tanks. But because he only lifts up this group of units over here, and he just, I mean, it's definitely very manual, because these ones never stop firing. They're never given the command to move. It's very much so, save these, get these medivacs out, and then these Banes have nothing to hit apart from split up units that are redropping. Tanks, which are obviously not ideal targets, and these units are still stood there dealing damage. Like, it just becomes such a continued good trade, right? At the end of the day, it's like, if you lift up everything, it's like, you're probably still winning the game, obviously. If you don't lift up anything, you're probably still winning the game. In a closer game, this could have actually been really, really cool. So, yeah, I feel like it was just a cool little move, and it just really accelerates this fight even more so in favor of Maru. Scarlett has to leave the game money in the bank, but she doesn't have the lava to spend it all. And Maru just got a bit too much control in this game. Getting that fourth base slows the Zerg down a lot, and definitely made Scarlett feel the heat a little bit. Kicking off map 2 in the top left side with the red Zerg played down a game is going to be Scarlett. And that was an elongated intro because, well, I like to imagine you guys are all applauding, but realistically I just had to pause and mute up to cough again, so apologies. In the bottom right is Maru, our blue Terran player here. New team, Onside Gaming, in case you didn't hear, and it's a team with Neeb. Neeb spoke pretty nicely about the team, so be exciting to see what comes out of those guys. That should be fun to get an eye on. Yeah, looking forward to see what happens here. in the game number 2 as we get things ready to rumble in game number 2 of this. I just repeated myself. Always good to repeat yourself a little bit sometimes. Keep yourself in check. Be like, huh, did I say exactly what I want to say? Yes, you did. Yeah, okay, cool. Good to know, right? Good to know. There's a pull first from Scarlett, so maybe a little bit of trickery from her as she sets up in Moondance. Most notable part of Moondance, in case you are not fully familiar with these maps, you want a bit of an intro to them. Pretty much this, right? It's like, oh, there's a backward base. It's behind your natural. But it only has 6 minerals and 1 gas. So you're missing 2 mineral patches and 1 gas geyser, which is not ideal. This base will have some uses. Obviously, you can take a very quick third there. For Zerg, who's typically taken 3 bases in very normal positions anyways very quickly, you just continue to take 3 bases, right? Like, that's something that doesn't really change at all. But as a Terran, for example, like maybe you do put your 3rd base there, especially if you're not missing out on the gas too much, if you're only going to play 5 gas anyway. You know, you can take your 3rd there so quickly, and that is a lot of the time what happens. And it does, again, allow for just that little bit of extra macro-y kind of turtley feel on this map. It does seem to be the kind of trend on the maps that these two have picked for this best of 3 so far. Definitely the maps that can maybe provide those longer, more drawn-out games. We know Maru is very much so a fan of those. I mean, those are the kind of games he loves to play. Those are the kind of games he loves to be a part of. So we'll see what he can do with it, as we do have the couple of Lings chasing the Reaper out of here. And the Reaper is pushed down the right-hand side and is going to come through the center. Now it's down to the bottom. Yeah, fast Rotron from Scarlett, so she's going to get aggressive early in the game. As you see, a 3rd CC built on location for Maru. So, I mean, for Scarlett, this is very much so a case of, hey, look, I'm expecting you to be very greedy. I'm going to try and punish that straight away with some roaches. And the entire build already is making sense. It's all clicking together like pieces of the jigsaw. Because, well, you know, she went pool first. Why'd you go pool first? To try and stop Maru's scout and to be able to go for this nice fast roach roar and get all of that set up. Now, the only thing I would say is that Maru, he's obviously been aware it's pool first. He has seen the fast 3rd hatch, though, and I think that's the one thing that's going to throw him off. But he's like, oh, there is a 3rd hatch down, so how safe do I need to be right now? He is still building Marines and only 1 Hellion at a time, and I think that's going to be his real saving grace. If he was reactoring out Hellions, they are so bad against those roaches, then he might really be in some trouble. He's going to have a medevac, too, so maybe even some micro potential to keep units alive. He's not going to see it until it hits, though. I mean, this has got to be some serious damage taken from Maru. Surely, this has got to be somewhat problematic. Surely, right? I mean, you would think so. He's going to see it now for the first time. Roaches do not get a kill. They half kill a Hellion, so half damage needed to kill dealt there. The SCV's already rolling forward. These few Marines coming through. With SCVs starting to go down. That Depot in the front taking some damage. There's the SCV on the front going down as well. Cancel on the bunker and just going to be having our SCVs continue to pull on through there. 6 SCVs going down. Hellions, Marines, the Reaper trying to fight back. The Roach is getting blasted once again. They're going to stand here and try and hold their ground. I mean, it's a good amount of SCVs killed, but don't forget Maru's on such a fast 3rd base that he might just be making up for those losses anyway. It's a 12-worker-ish lead from Scarlett coming out of this, about to extend further than that. She'll be on 50 to about 34, 35. The problem is Maru's got the medevac of units still, so A, he can chase down these Ravagers, so basically Scarlett doesn't get away with, I would imagine, anything. I imagine these units are going to die. Maru has the micro potential to get rid of these. He's going to get this Overlord as well, which is a pretty big deal. There's a lot of Overlords just here and there on the map. This Viking could have a field day. Could be a big one, as once again we're chasing that Ravager. I don't think this one dies. It gets back to the couple of Queens. Scarlett's supply blocked, having to build new units, and that is at least going to slow down her further drone production. Giving Maru a chance to catch backup as an SCVs, especially in a world where he's got triple Mule and soon to be triple SCV production as well once that orbital is finished in. That's the only thing he's really waiting on to be truly fully set up back onto a big macro position for here on out. They'll be taking a few shots. These couple Queens trying to put some damage onto the medevac already. Medevac will be forced backward there and just going to be seeing the Mutes getting shoved away. Roaches, a Ravager coming through there, and that medevac units does have to just lift up and escape back down. The right side of the map, Raven, Stimpack, extra couple of barracks, all building through here from Maru as well. A factory is about to finish up a reactor also. This Viking comes in from the right-hand side, starting to chip away at an Overlord. It's already taking some good damage here initially. Queen is going to start poking at the Viking. And the Overlord should eventually, though, go down. There it is. Overlord falls. And nice to see the Viking getting a second kill. There was so many kind of out there Overlords before. It was kind of crazy you didn't find another, although I suppose they were pretty close to the base. This is actually a relatively short map because of that backward base. Especially, it's a short map to begin with, but then it doesn't really shorten for a while because the Terran takes their third back in their base, so it doesn't get even shorter. It gets obviously shorter when you take these forward bases for your fourth and so on. Yeah, it is a short map to begin with as well, so also pretty notable. You can see this Viking still moving out around the top, just going to be having now a couple of SCVs. Returning on back, everything just gathering and waiting to go. Stim will be finished up shortly. Again, the fact it is bio instead of mech may be somewhat notable here. Maru is not afraid of playing his mech style. That is something he could potentially bring out throughout the course of a series, especially when he's up a game. You know, he's like, okay, I've done one thing, let's try the other one. It's a decent map for playing mech on. It's not a huge map, but sometimes it actually benefits you as the mech player because it means that once you start moving out, there's very limited time for the Zerg to do much about your move out because you're just going to be in position very quickly once you've left the base. So definitely worth noting that. So what's up, Fear Dragon? Thank you so much for the 78-month resub. Lots of roaches from Scarlett. In case you didn't see the production tab, it is full-on roach production from her. Sort of feels like she's just gonna, I mean, she's on 80 drones. It's not like she's like all in. She has a strong economy behind this no matter what. It's just she's very committed to low-tech units. There's no future in this army composition for Scarlett. You know, if she wants to get this army composition a bit better, I mean, the link speed's one thing that's nice because at least then you're likely to add a Baneling Nest on, which she just now did. And then at least then you have kind of like Ling Bane Roach, and it's less about the Roaches and more about the Ling Bane supported by a few Ravagers. Oh, double Baneling Nest, so that's just Scarlett getting a bit caught up here. This is a good army supply lead from Scarlett, but that's what Roaches are meant to provide. Upgrades are going to be even across the board, so Scarlett will not have that in her favor as we do pile down the first depot here, looking for number 2, gets it with the Roach shots. And just breaking down this wall, supply blocking Maru and creating an access point. The only problem then is, of course, it's still a pretty choked up area, and I do not feel like we're likely to be able to just move on into that position and really do much about it. That depot burdens down. It's honestly more than anything just a serious supply block from Maru, and you can see Scarlett's investment into everything else now. The +1 melee, the Baneling speed, she cancels Baneling Nest number 2 as well, realizing that when she starts the Bane speed on the first one. Nice anti-armor missile. I mean, there's no anti-air in this army, so this Raven's just going to sit here and wait for its best possible moment to attack and to use some of its utility. And seeing that Scarlett's not really making any aggressive intentions, we're actually going to start sending 2 medevacs across the map as well to deal some damage. We also have that good tank line, which really means that I think at this stage it's hard for Scarlett to justify breaking into this position. I'd be surprised if she was going to do it, but here she is already moving forward. Cutting away from some of those biles. You can see that Scarlett is pretty quick to just bile and get out. I think that is her own recognition of, hey, look, this isn't really working. This isn't going well at all. Let's turn this around. Let's get this out of here because that could be trouble for me. And meanwhile, Maru did get this drop going onto the map. And that's the power of playing drops against Roaches. Roaches are kind of slow, take a while to get back to deal with this kind of stuff. So Maru does get a couple of queens, then just lifts up and gets out of there, content with little bits of damage. And I'm sure he'll use these medevacs for other things, other endeavors in the near future. Naturally, he has 3 medevacs on this left-hand side. So we're going to do similar things, right? Just, hey, a little bit of creep spread, pull the army over here, cool, lift up, get out. Really just forcing Scarlett to split this army as best as possible. Oh, it's a lot of extra racks coming through as Maru powers up into his 2-2 upgrades, and it's just going to continue to play a kind of a map controlling focus of this game. You know, dropping around, making some of these plays, all that kind of stuff is going to have pretty reasonably for the moment as we can get rid of a couple creep tumors. Lings, Roaches, and Ravagers continuing down the right-hand side. Maybe looking for a dive in towards this natural expansion as well. Let's see if Scarlett can find success with the attack. I really can't imagine she does. Maru's defense is positioned well. He's already dropping a Ghost Academy. He has no real intention of moving out closer than these couple of drops. These drops will create enough map control for him. They will just cause enough chaos. And from there on out, he's just going to say, cool. If I'm already dealing with all of that in other ways, then I can just continue through and go to my ghosts and really kind of build into that army that people are terrified of playing against me when I have it. You know, the ghost army. Late game TvZ is somewhat impossible to break sometimes, it feels like. Now, Scarlett's very quick to Broodlords. Great Spire finishing shortly. That might be something which Maru's not really ready for. Ghost count should be fairly low. It's not like there's any real anti-air up in play, so that could be pretty noticeable. Yeah, that could actually be very cool. Oh god, we've got 10 drones going down. The Marines over here. This drop actually just delivering a really punishing blow. 12 drones going down. We stem forward, we get rid of a couple more Overlords. Scarlet supply block coming out of this. These few Banelings, well, they were getting targeted, but lifting them to the Marines. Only one Baneling left, but we get out of there alive. And I'm just going to be pulling back along the right side. We still got action elsewhere. Drop on the top right, doing okay. This drop was cleaned up. A few more drones went down to it. Maru a little bit all over the place right now, just jumping on every possible opportunity to get some damage done. Here to Scarlett and to try and just pick her apart. A Scarlett who's maxed out, and to be fair, maxed out on quite some money. 6.3k minerals, 2.3k gas. What else would you like to spend that on? Or do you just want to fight and spend it fully on reinforcements? Obviously, you can't just sit around forever and wait for more and more upgrades to be done, right? Because then you'll just really be giving the Terran a ton of time to be prepared as well. Adjust his own composition accordingly. More of those ghosts coming online. It's kind of funny because the composition that was here for Scarlett was still very low tech, so actually it's pretty good against a higher number of ghosts, but the higher ghost count wasn't really there until maybe around about now. Now would be a good time to kind of swarm with lower tier units perhaps, but you guess the tank line is going to be a little bit too much anyways. And of course Scarlett is thinking about her own future tech, the Corruptors, the Great Aspire in play, because Broodlords are going to be one of the ways she tries to find an answer to this. I'm just a little bit worried that she doesn't... I mean, right now, Maru's just moving into base 5, taking a bunch more command centers, right? All of that's still coming through. I'm definitely a bit worried about how these Broodlords do. Now, it's a shorter map, so maybe they can get across, maybe they can get into a fight, but... I mean, Maru's preparation honestly does seem somewhat ideal already. I suppose we shall see. Roach Ravager Bane joins up again in the center. One Banelings going down, Roach is being picked off, Ravager going down as well. These few Banelings don't really connect on anything. The Bioforce still coming through. I'm just going to chase that Roach Ravager army back away up the left-hand side. There's the extra Broodlords coming out, the Infestors are still producing. We got that melee upgrade +3 now on the way through. A little bit of this Bioforce will continue through as well into the center of the map, clearing out some of that creep spread. 5 Infestors all producing. The +3 melee upgrade is about halfway done, +2 on the Great Aspire. Upgrades continue to rain in, and again, we've just been seeing continue to tech up. I mean, we've not looked at the counts for a while, I suppose, but 14 ghosts are now on the field. That one supporting Raven. We had 7 Broodlords from Scotland there, supported by 5 Infestors. And then just the Roach Ravager army beyond that. Thanks, Sean, to scare off the Roach Ravager here. Push that back that little bit. And ghosts continue to peel away out over the left. A couple extra Thors going down, extra factories. I mean, at this point, Maru kind of starts looking towards mech. Infernal Pre-Igniter coming up as well, so even Hellbats at this stage, he's probably feeling as though he's somewhat done with the Bioforce. It's unlikely to kind of ever have too much bio at any point in time again outside of what he's already built. So, he's not just going to go throw it away, but very happy to say, yeah, if this goes very late game, I have the tools to kind of do as I wish when I need it. If I need Blue Flame Hellbats, I'll have Blue Flame ready, you know? Flying out the left will get rid of a couple more creep teamers again. Clearing those out, actually going to lift those medevacs, and again, just slow passive play. The creep has been good from Scarlett, has been getting into every avenue possible. Maru has been on a creep clearing mission. 72 tumors killed this game, which obviously means that he's definitely not been slacking when it comes to pushing that creep back. So then, of course, credit Scarlett for getting that creep still on the map and still looking so, yeah, kind of dominating, right? I mean, it's easily across the halfway mark and across the entirety of the map too, right? It's easily, I guess it says comfortably on Scarlett's half of the map, I suppose, is the fairest to say here. Moving up into that top right corner, we are going to land a nuke or try to on those broods. It's going to just take the attention from Scarlett for a moment or so as the Bioforce here has to take back again. We lift up, we escape away. Nuke's going to land for a few more creep tumors at those just creep tumor kill tally. And that Ghost is able to back it up without being taken down as well. So Scarlett not going for that punishment. Looking to catch these medevacs. If you fungal them, Corrosive Biles could connect. We get 1 out of 3 on the Biles. And not bad. Just feels like sometimes you're looking for a bit more than that. I guess the Ravager count wasn't actually crazy high there. So you're going to get another set of Biles. That does clean up everything this time around. So Scarlett didn't get it done in the first set, but second set gets everything. And Maru loses out on that Bioforce. No surprises to say that he's not replacing it. It's Liberators, Hellbats, and Thors that line up the production tab right now. And they are going to be filling out the supply of Maru here, who is already maxed out again. We've seen the Spore Crawler setting up atop this ramp. I mean, these are important, these access points. You can see all of them guarded. Spawn a spine, and that's just to stop ghosts. That's Scarlett's way of saying, okay, how do I stop ghosts from getting into my bases? How do I try and minimize the, the problems that come from that ASAP, basically. Alright, starting to push up the right side of the map. Takes position here. Some of the creeps being removed. The Liberator is going to help the zone. Another nuke that's just going to get rid of some creep spread and help to clear the way up that ramp, potentially give him some opportunity. We do have the Raven is going to move forward, drops the anti-armor missile, does hit a good chunk in the center. Don't think that's going to be like Maru being like, oh my god, I've got to go fight now. What it does do is it kind of sets the skull, hey, you can't fight for the next 15-20 seconds. So let me just edge forward a little bit further, a little bit more easily. Well, you can't really do much with your army to respond to that. His EMP is hitting all of the infests. Is going to be a big move as well. Maru, this transition into the late game is so smooth. He just does it so comfortably as well, right? And that's what's, I think, most impressive about it. He's just so good at saying, right, well, once I get set up to do this, I can just do it as I wish at my own pacing. He's also not giving Scarlett too much time. And don't get me wrong, Scarlett's got a massive bang. Let's face it, 17k, 6k. Because one thing that Scarlett never did here was she never went in throwing units at Maru, right? One of the things you usually see from Zergs is they're going to throw units at the Terran to try and stop them from getting to this stage. Scarlett never did that. She saved her money to, I guess at this point, basically look to rebuild once this stage came around. So you take a fight, then you look to rebuild, and you go from there. Raven is having a look around, see if it can do anything. Not really. Fungal and Biles get a Thor and a Medevac. But this base will go down. It's a hatchery that falls. Still a lot of money in the bank from Scarlett, but it's always going to be a question of what do you build that can kill this, because right now it doesn't feel like anything is killing this force. I mean, maybe like you see, it sounds crazy, but sometimes even turning back to lower tier units can sometimes be the answer. A Swarm of Banes, for example, could be expensive but effective in a scenario like this, but I don't know, man, like there's a good amount of Thors and tanks to kind of cover against that as well. Let's see those few calls passing forward, just going to get a few shots off. Corrupt is taking damage, refreshing the EMPs on the infestors. They are just dead supply at the moment as this base goes down, and Maru is just systematically making his way through. This force of Scarlett, there's honestly really, again, not much that Scarlett can do right now as more corrosive bars come crashing down. The Broodlings run in, but need a quick end to those Thors again. I don't know what Scarlett really does here, like I say. It feels like at this point you're like, well, why is the Terran Army being able to get to you? Well, Scarlett opted not to go fight. Scarlett opted to kind of let Maru do the building up. Which I get, you know, sometimes throwing units into him repeatedly is not exactly ideal, but I don't know, once he gets here, it feels like he is so difficult to beat and take down. Snipes just lining up on morphing in Broodlings, which are Broodlords, which are obviously expensive in themselves just to be corruptors, even if you get the refund on the Broodlord part. And Thor's going to do some work here against the Broods as well. I actually think the Thor count might go down, though. And Scarlett does have some good battles, and yeah, it's going to have to be a lift and leave with the last few units. And these few tanks will just try and allow the Ghost to make a getaway. Now they're going to unsiege and try and get away themselves. The Broodlings already dropping down to kill off two of the tanks, actually. Look at what Maru's done. He's just established so many bases during all of this. So he's just got base after base. He's got his forward location, which just means he can sit and defend over here, which is obviously fantastic. It's honestly just kind of crazy how good a position this leaves him in for the most part. All those Broodlings dropping down. Scarlett didn't try and make a push forward, but this is just Maru picking his moment to fight. Now he's going to see, opportunity to get some snipes in, gets a couple of the Broods. Just leaving those Hellbats in the front to clear out a bunch of those Broodlings that are dropping down and Lings that run in. At this point, Scarlett has a lot more minerals than gas, so she is going to have to start building just a lot of pure Lings. But you sneak a fungal onto those Ghosts, which is scary, because once they're fungled, they cannot snipe. Any kind of damage cancels the snipe, and obviously fungal is continuous damage over time, so you can't snipe while being fungled. Broodling's still going huge on a lot of these SCVs. A couple of Liberators and all might just go attack the Broods, which are kind of low. But yeah, we're going to do the smarter thing and siege up. But once again, corrosive bar down quickly. Thoroughly infestors, and Scarlett is really on a crusade to end this game. But I mean, it may look like it's working. It's just the fact that Maru has a full rebuild behind this, and now Scarlett's going to have what? A chunk of minerals and 900 gas, 500 gas to work with. That's always going to be Scarlett's problem. There's no mineral-focused army you can build here that's good. You know, some Lings to support, nice. Some Queens to support, sure. An entire army made on minerals? No. Don't do that. You can't get away with it. I'm just going to come and think about pushing up that ramp. Doesn't commit for it just yet. Instead, going to go around the right-hand side to the 12 o'clock, which is a base he has denied before. Those Hellbats lead the charge. Doing actually a good amount of tanking. I'm surprised how long they are staying alive for themselves. Really doing a good job cleaning up the Broodlings, which is obviously one of the biggest threats onto them. Now with the Ghosts here ready to maybe get some snipes going while the Overseers going down. The Corruptors are dying. And the Ghost is kind of counting backwards now, waiting to line up more snipes, but that's not even needed. That is just going to be GG's, and Maru is going to take game at number 2. And hence this best of 3 series of Scarlett here in the DreamHack Valencia groups.